Yeah, so thanks everyone for coming, I really appreciate it. So my name's Charlie, I'm an illustrator for quite a few years now, and I've been at Mudlark for around 5 years. So yeah, last year I left my full-time job in a medical illustration company to try and make a go of it freelance in the illustration world, trying to get jobs and commissions here and there. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a peek into my mudlarking and illustration practice. Sort of go behind the scenes into my research, my creative process. So I've always collected things since a kid, like fossils and bones, etc. I've always been a collector of everything, really. I've always been fascinated by history. I was a big fan of Time Team back in the day. So discovering mudlarking for the first time was an absolute revelation for me. It was a bit of a life-changing thing. I'd say it's the kind of the perfect combination of searching and collecting, excitement, research, and it's a great opportunity to make artwork, really. So I'd say I'm quite a seasoned mudlark now. We're doing it for 5 years, 5 years on the foreshore. This is a photo of me in my natural habitat. So this is by Tom Harrison, a great photographer. He did a whole series of mudlark portraits. So I've been doing it since I was a child, really encouraged by my parents who are over there. I've been drawing as long as I can remember. This is a photo of me around age 6, looking incredibly uncomfortable, shooting my mum a death stare, because I was getting my photo taken after I won a drawing competition in my hometown of Harlow. Unlike 6-year-old me, I actually want to be here, and it's a great opportunity. So I'm still a bit nervous, but hopefully it doesn't come across too much. So I've been completely obsessed with paleontology all my life, but mostly when I was a child. I was like next level obsessed. It's the same level of obsession as I am now with mudlarking, really. So I really wanted to be a paleo artist when I grew up, so someone who draws depictions of long dead creatures. So as I said, I collected fossils as a child, and many dinosaur books. So these are a few little drawings I did around the age of 13. So there's a couple at the top are dinosaurs. We've got Deinonychus, and then we've got Velociraptor. They're very shrink-wrapped, so they wouldn't have had these big holes in their faces, but I was only 13, so there's a study of fox skull as well, so like as part of my collection, so I used to draw lots of different mediums. My favourite mediums were graphite and coloured pencil, which is something that actually persists to this day, as you'll see later on. While I do have other interests, mainly music, I'm also a drummer, so I play in bands as well. So art has always been a very consistent thread throughout my life and my studies. So I studied art and design at college, as well as music. But this eventually led to a degree in illustration and visual communication at the University of Westminster. So during uni and spending more time in London, naturally, that's when I discovered mudlarking. This is back in 2014, 2015. So I was initially really fascinated by the many millions of animal bones that you get on the foreshore. As a collector of animal bones as a child, I was instantly fascinated and I needed to know more, basically. And somehow I never realised that the Thames was tidal. All my years of coming to London, I just never realised that it kind of went up and down every day and it washed up all its history on the shores, and it just never occurred to me. I've heard that before with other mudlarks as well, like we just didn't realise beforehand. So I discovered that mudlarking was a thing online. I'd never heard that word before. I was instantly, absolutely enamoured. And I went for the very first time the very next day, the day after I discovered what it was. So this was before permits were introduced. This is back in 2014, so permits came into force in 2016, I think. So I chose mudlarking as my summer project at uni. I began visiting the foreshore frequently on and off for a couple of months, drawing and taking photos and things. Doing lots of research and getting really involved, really. This book kind of was an illustrated sketchbook that I produced, and it included studies of finds, experiments with materials, interviews with other mudlarks and diary-style excerpts. So these are studies of collected bones and pipes that I'd found. So these are things that I wouldn't pick up today because they're so common, but back then I was just so incredibly fascinated by them. So these are studies in mixed media, so these are watercolour and coloured pencil. And these are drawn from life as well, so I had the objects like right next to me. So I also did studies of what I saw on the foreshore, so various foreshore detritus. I was very interested in all just the things that are some kind of jutting out of the foreshore. So we've got like tyres and like posts and various things like that. And I did a few drawings that accompanied my research. So I was talking about the Tudor feasts and things like that, and talking about boar tusks. So I did a little study of a wild boar. Some more material experimentation, so more mixed media. So got some like watercolour and pen and ink as well. Did a study of a detectorist that I found online. I'm not sure who that is, but I'm sure he's still going. So this is a study of some stairs down to the foreshore. So other mudlarks may recognise where that is. So if you know, you know. So there's another foreshore study in graphite pencil on the left here. Once again, just studying the posts and all the ancient timbers like jutting out. A lot of these are probably gone now because of the rate of erosion, but this is like 10 years ago, I suppose. And the other one is a study of the foreshore. So I took some photos very close up of all the bones and all the coal and even just the litter and everything that was lying there. And I was experimenting with shapes and stuff, so I kind of put it in the silhouette of a clay pipe. So just lots of just playing around, really. So after that project, mudlarking somehow eluded me for quite a few years. So looking back, I have no idea how I managed to prize myself away, like judging by how utterly obsessed I am today. So, so it was always kind of there in the background, but just other things took over, like moved into a full-time job and being in bands and stuff. I was illustrating for a medical company. In 2019, somehow I fell back in love with it, and I bought a permit. This is after they were introduced, and I was returned to the exciting world of mudlarking. And the rest is history, no pun intended. So photos from those early days here, back in 2019. Note the upside down knee pads, so I was very much a novice back then. But yes, I've been completely obsessed ever since. So after finding some really nice objects, I really wanted to start drawing them and sort of introducing my illustration into it as well, because some of the objects are just so beautiful, and even if they're fragmentary and a little bit beaten up, they're just incredible objects. So this is a fragment of a Roman hunt cup. So this is a kind of a fine Roman tableware, probably made in the Nene Valley of Peterborough or places like Germany. So it's like a little drinking beaker, and it would have had dogs chasing hare and deer around it, like a sort of little drinking vessel for wine and that kind of thing. So I wanted to try out a sort of a different style that I hadn't really tried before. So I was really inspired by archaeological illustration with the stippling technique, where they use it to record finds. And I was also inspired by other things like hand-poked tattoos. There's a few really nice tattoo artists out there. So I was just trying to playing around really to see what I could come up with. I really liked how it looked, and I liked how it kind of brought the finds to life. This is quite an early piece. So this is a little demonstration of my stippling technique. So when I was working at that medical company, I learned a lot of skills in Photoshop. While working for those, I learned a lot about brushes and things like that. So I realised I could do these drawings like traditionally in pen, but I really wanted the speed and editability. So I kind of opted to do these particular pieces on Photoshop. But I made custom brushes so they would emulate traditional pen. So they're kind of all the dots are randomised in shape, in angle as well. So to emulate the sort of imperfect nature of pen. So most of my fragmentary finds, they get the stippling treatment, some of my best things. So this is a 13th to 14th century, it's the rare face of a king. No one knows who the king is, but it's the face of a king from a tiny miniature drinking jug, probably for wine or beer. and they're quite rare to find a medieval face that's quite realistic, because they were often quite kind of crude and cartoonish, and this would have been made in Kingston upon Thames in the 13th to 14th century. Yes, all these illustrations are all very kind of well informed and based on exhaustive reference image gathering. So I'm very kind of fastidious, and I like to have all the references that I can gather, basically. This is one of my favourite ever finds. It's a partial Roman oil lamp. I've got it on the table over there. So actually most of the things I'm talking about are on the table over there. You can come and have a look afterwards. So yeah, I found this lying on the surface of the foreshore, literally the day before my 30th birthday, a couple of years ago. So it was the best possible birthday present. And I really wanted to illustrate how it was portable, because it has a little handle. Not all of them had handles. Yeah, so it would have been held by the handle, because sometimes the body could get quite hot, apparently. So, yeah, it's one of my early pieces illustrating the Roman oil lamp, but we'll come back to this later. So watch this space. Yeah, so I almost kind of get excited when I find something that's fragmentary, because it means it's like an excuse to do a nice drawing of it. So this is a little fragment of a pipe clay Roman Venus figurine. So these are little, quite small white clay figurines used by the Romans in household shrines to worship the goddess Venus, the goddess of love and fertility and various other attributes. Yeah, used in household shrines, and they're also, it's thought that they were played with by children, because they were often found in children's graves of the time, and they're often found with the heads broken off purposefully. But this is just a little fragment that I found, just like the body section. So I was really happy with this piece until, like, literally a few weeks ago, I found this huge chunk. Yeah, so I was very happy with this. So I thought it was like a weird shaped bit of flint or something towards the end of a nightlark. And yeah, I turned it over, and this the Venus was staring at me, and it was just, yeah, incredible moment. So yeah, you can see all the important areas like for the fertility and such. You can see how the colour changed as well. So it started off quite brown, and then over time, like with clay pipes, because it's the same material, it kind of gradually got whiter. So I was planning on reusing the first drawing for that first little chunk that I found, but it just didn't quite match. So I basically started from scratch and did a new one, showing how the rest probably looked. So obviously she's completely naked. She's got a hand up to her head. She's got the little Roman hairstyle. She's holding the robe down by her side, and she's got a little base on the bottom there, so she stands up. So yeah, coming back to that hair Roman fragment that I found earlier. So yeah, these fragments of Roman hunt cups are really one of my favourite things to find. So as I said earlier, little Roman drinking beakers, very thin, very finely made. And yeah, I've featured these animals running around the outside. So I've been lucky enough to find quite a few heads and parts of bodies. For a while I thought I might have found the best hair, but then recently Sam, who's over there, found a very, very nice one with more of the legs and everything, so I've been trumped, I think, in that aspect. But yeah, so I wanted to kind of return to these, because they've always inspired me to do more ambitious artwork. So this is a bit of a glimpse into my quite intense research and image gathering. So for every project I tried to gather kind of as many any single complete examples that I can find from online, from museums. So I gather from online in books as well, from, yeah, I go to local museums and museums in London as well, just taking photographs. And yeah, I compile all the images into a program called PureRef. You can see the logo in the corner there. So it's a really great, it's a free program that you can use, and you can drag images like literally straight in from like Google. You don't have to save or anything. It's a free program, and you can do whatever you want with them. You can lay them out however you want, add as many as you want, flip them, and make them grayscale. So it's really, really useful. So my boards can look a bit messy. This one's not too bad, but because they're only used by me. Yeah, so this one I divided kind of into the predators. So I think on the right hand side you've got the dogs. On the left hand side you've got all the prey, so the hare and the deer and such. Sometimes it's a bit ambiguous as to what they are, because they're because they were made with barbotine, so it was like liquid clay slip that was piped onto the surface. So it's you get a lot of kind of random blobs and things like that. So sometimes a hare could look like a deer. But yeah, so that's all the prey over there, and in the middle is all the double-decker designs that I've called them, because sometimes they were layered. So you had like a row of dogs chasing prey at the top and another one underneath. So, and that's kind of the one I wanted to go for, because I really liked just the presence of them and that kind of how they filled the space. This is a little depiction of my stippling technique. So this is once again working on Photoshop. But this time I wanted to do it on a black background, because I really like how the white looks on the black. So you can see how I'm mainly stippling one dot by dot, but if I need to cover a large area, then I will use the pen to its full ability, so I can like just draw and it just creates loads of dots, but it's mostly just stippling. And this is the finished piece, which is over here as well. So this is my first time really using this stippling style on a black background, and I really liked how it turned out. So most of the body shapes for the animals are kind of my best educated guess, looking at so many different complete examples. So there's a couple there that I'm not sure, like this one here. I thought it was a hare, but maybe it's a deer. I'm not too sure, but I just went with my best educated guess. So there's a lot of artistic license involved with these. Yeah, mostly a fusion of basing them on complete examples and then also using artistic license to fill the gaps. This is a little close up, so I can just see a little bit closer. So it's the inverse of working on a light background. So I'm actually drawing highlights instead. And it involves a lot of going back and forth and sending these to my phone and other screens so I can see if it shows up enough, and adding more highlights and taking highlights away, and just a lot of iterations going back and forth to make sure everything's the level that I want it to be. Another close-up here. So yeah, so it's an example of using the artistic license. So a couple of these heads, so that dog up there, I think maybe that one, they actually face the other way in real life, but for the purpose of the illustration, every animal running left, I had to flip them basically. So yeah, so it's a little bit of that involved. So I wanted to make this so the ends actually match up, so that the dogs at the ends, they go together, so I can actually make it continuous. And in theory, that could go on like into infinity, so there could be one huge long kind of frieze of animals. So this is a recent little find in quite an unexpected spot. So it's a little fragment of Roman Samian ware, which is another type of fine tableware which kind of came before the colour-coated ware with the hun cups. This came mostly from Gaul, which is parts of France and Germany. Yeah, so I initially thought it was a little person like swinging a bat, like a little Roman baseball player or something. But I did a bit of research into Roman bat and ball games, and yeah, came up completely empty. But yeah, luckily I now a part of the Mudlarking community, and I know a lot of people, so I have all my people that I know have certain books, like certain quite niche books and niche expertise and niche interests. So I joined a lot of obscure Facebook groups as well, like about lead and things, and leather, and yeah, lots of things like that. So I asked a fellow Mudlark, Beth, her name is Whitby Solo on Instagram. I asked her, because I knew she had this book, to have a look. It's a quite rare book by a guy called Felix Oswald from the 60s. Yeah, and luckily she managed to find a really good match. So it's actually, yeah, the top left there, that one, that little guy swinging a bat. So it's actually, it turns out it's not like someone swinging a bat, it's actually a merman. I think it could be a bat, or it could be like a little a horn or something, I think. So it's like a double, it's got two fish tails, and it's a little merman, so it's kind of borrowed from Greek mythology. So that was quite surprising. I thought it might be, I don't know, like a gladiator or something, but no, it's a little merman. So this was like a little reconstruction that I produced based on the reference. There's an exercise in turning a flat line drawing into something with a bit more tone, with the highlights and shadows and everything. So this is obviously based on that one little drawing in that book, because I couldn't find any other references to this design anywhere online or anything. I couldn't find any existing examples. All I could find was someone else's drawing, basically. So I wanted to do my own take on it. Yeah, so this is the stages of the drawing. So I kind of start with just a very loose sketch. So I don't start stippling until later. So it's a very loose sketch with like a basic like round brush on Photoshop. And I start kind of adding in all the tone and everything, the highlights. Then I go in and I make an outline. So I've got a specific outline brush that I made as well. So it's based on pen, so it's not completely smooth, there's little imperfections. And then that's when I start the stippling at the end. So I gradually start blocking out the main areas, and then I sort of start bringing the highlights in and just kind of going from there. So this is another little piece on a black background. So this is a little partial pilgrim badge that I found quite recently. So it's a 15th to 16th century pilgrim badge depicting the 5 wounds of Christ. So it would have been worn by a pilgrim visiting an unknown shrine. No, I don't think anyone actually knows where they came from specifically. But yeah, I wanted to do a reconstruction of this because I haven't seen an exact example anywhere. I've seen similar ones, but I've never seen this particular style. So I kind of I flipped it around a few times and then like just speculated how the rest would have looked. Because it's a little bit beaten up, but I could tell that there were kind of like ring and dot sort of things going around it, and there were like roundels on each side, each corner. So I kind of did my own little speculative illustration. Pilgrim badges are one of the most kind of coveted and sought after mudlarking finds, and they're obviously one of my favourite things to find. And then moving on to this one, this is my best pilgrim badge to date, and one of my best finds in general, I think. So it's a 13th century lead pilgrim badge, and it comes all the way from southern France, and I found this on the foreshore, just on the south side of the Thames. So it would have been bought by a pilgrim at the shrine of Our Lady of Le Puy in southern France, and they may have actually gone all the way to Spain after that, and then come all the way back to London, probably, I suppose, on foot or horseback. They would have had to go on a ship, I suppose. So it's been on a very long journey, and then it was potentially folded on purpose by the pilgrim themselves, and then could have been ritually deposited in the Thames as a thanks for a safe journey. So this is one of my pure ref boards again. So it's another example of gathering as many reference images as I could. So I found literally every single example that I could find online. And there's a couple of good places to look. There's the Cunera database, which is I think based in the Netherlands. And there's various other examples that are kind of similar, but nothing was quite like what I found, basically. So even when it was folded, I could still see that the details were different to anything that I'd seen. Like, it was quite unusual. And I also contacted Colin Terode. He's an expert in pilgrim badges. He also runs something called Lionheart Replicas. So he makes like modern day replicas of pilgrim badges in pewter. And he's like a fountain of knowledge on pilgrim badges. And he, even in its folded state, he was able to ascertain where it came from and everything. So here's a speculative illustration that I produced at first, just to try and theorise how it would have looked when it was complete. So the bottom section is based on what I could see from the badge in its folded state, and then I kind of used other examples to kind of fill in the rest, really. But I kind of knew what it was going to say around it. So it says Sigillum Vitae Marie de Podio. So I think it's something like Blessed Mary of Podio or something like that. And I know that it would have had stitching loops on the outside. So these little protuberances coming out from the outside, there's 2 crosses there. So they were used to stitch it to someone's hat or their bag. Basically, it's like a little souvenir of their trip to France, of visiting the shrine. And they also kind of thought that it might have contained a bit of the magic from the shrine as well. But on my example, I'll go back, you can see that the stitching loops are missing. So this means that they were very flimsy, and they probably broke off back in the day, back in the 13th century probably. So the pilgrim loved it so much that they actually punched their own holes in each corner because they cherished it so much, they wanted to keep wearing it. So there's a little bit of medieval make, do and mend there. And this is how it actually turned out when unfolded. So it's kind of, yeah, it's quite amazing how it turned out. So it was expertly unfolded by fellow Mudlark, Ollie. His name's Ollie Mudlark on Instagram. And he's also a professional conservator, and he did a great job of unfolding it. So you can see the comparison there, the folded to unfolded. Yeah, and it was just so exciting to get that unfolded. I was dreaming about that for months and months. I found this back in November 2023, so last year. And I only unfolded this like probably about a month or two ago. So it's quite recent. So it turns out it's a very rare and unique design. So especially these kind of dotted bands on the upper torso of what we think is the Virgin Mary. And she's got these minuscule little hands as well, like really just tiny little claw hands. And she's holding like a scepter as well. She's wearing a crown and kind of a medieval headdress. I think it's called a wimple or something. And yeah, so luckily the word podio is revealed, so that confirms it's from Le Puy in southern France, because podio was an old word for the town. And this is a side-by-side of my original speculative illustration, and then also produced another one using the same idea with the stitching loops and everything. But I just wanted to kind of fill in the gaps. So there wasn't really much left to fill in, really, because it's so complete. There's only one really missing section at the top, and obviously the stitching loops, which broke off in antiquity. Yeah, so it's not really, yeah, as I said, not much to illustrate. So it should show the infant Christ's face, like right next to Mary's face, like she's kind of holding him like in this sort of swaddling, kind of like over her shoulder kind of thing. But it's such a tiny space that I find it hard to see where the face would have gone. So I did a little speculative illustration to kind of theorise where the head would have gone. So it might have fitted in that tiny gap, but it's just so small. It's hard to say. So it could be even more unique. Like it could be just the Virgin Mary without the baby Jesus. So yeah, drawing is very useful for this type of scenario. Like you can really get in and try and work things out. So it's very useful. So yeah, now for something a little bit different. So I love to find animal prints on the foreshore. They're always really interesting, exciting things to find. Because they transport you back to like an exact specific moment in time. Back in the sort of medieval, post-medieval, and back to Roman periods, clay, like roof tiles and other types of tile, they were made. They were made of clay, and they were left to dry outdoors in the sun when they were still kind of wet and squidgy. So a lot of these are found with animal prints in them. So like all manner of animals walked across these tiles, probably accidentally, and sometimes maybe on purpose. There's theories that maybe they were actually kind of used as a bit of a kind of maker's mark. That they've actually got an animal to press into it on purpose. So I reached out to yet another of my niche experts that I've got out there, like my web of people out there. So I've got the archaeologist and print expert Julie Curl. She was great. I sent her loads of photos, and she actually identified it as a raven footprint, which is really unusual, really cool. I was really excited actually, because it pleases the inner goth in me, because I love crows and ravens, and I love how they kind of scavenge, and they're kind of like sort of harbingers of death and everything like that. I love that kind of thing. So they were once really common in cities, including London. So they would have kept the streets clean, to eating like carrion and everything, and because obviously the streets of London would have been absolutely filthy and they would have stunk as well. So they did actually help to keep it clean, but unfortunately they were kind of persecuted and kind of hunted into almost extinction, and now they're kind of mostly basically confined to the Tower of London now. So you don't really get them flying around wild in London. So they're really cool things. I love these. So I wanted to kind of give this the art treatment. So I did my own little sketches, like the drawings of a raven. So this is it's a bit of a departure from the stippling style and everything. So these are done in graphite pencil, probably one of my favourite mediums, because it's so versatile, and you can get so many different effects. I do a lot of erasing and taking things away and then putting things back in, like for highlights and stuff. So I wanted to kind of revive the long dead animal through drawing. and I'm hoping for this to be kind of the first of a series. So I kind of chose to show the raven scavenging on a dead rat or a mouse or something on a little branch there with a little bit of flesh hanging out of his mouth. So when I used to draw dinosaurs as a kid, I always loved the predators. I always loved the T-Rex and Velociraptor and stuff, and I always used to like watch them I used to like drawing them like in really gory scenes, like eating their prey and stuff. I'm just kind of weird in that way, but so I wanted to kind of experiment combining really tight, detailed rendering, obviously on the feathers and everything. Like birds are quite complicated to draw. The forms are quite strange, and obviously they've got so many feathers and points of light and everything, and yeah. I wanted to combine that tight rendering with slightly more like loose, quick kind of smudges. So I literally just took my thumb and just smudged it off the edge of some of the some of the forms, at the end of the tail, like the head and the wings and everything, to kind of give it a bit of a sense of movement, really, make it a bit more dynamic. This is a little time-lapse video just showing the drawing progress of the flying raven. So you can show how it starts off quite loose, and gradually just filling in the areas. So I drew these in my beloved moleskin sketchbook. So I really love the smooth newsprint-like paper. It's really nice to draw on. It's really versatile. I can use basically everything in there. So pencils, colour pencils, paints, pen. The paper's quite thin, but it's just really nice paper. I really enjoy it. So this is me using an electric eraser to just do the little pinpoint of light on the eye there. So it looks a little bit messy at first, but I did go in and clean it up. But the electric eraser completely changed my life when I first discovered that. So it's a little battery-powered rubber or eraser, and it spins really fast, and you can use it for really precise details on drawings. Because I like to go right with the nitty-gritty details, and you can use a knife to sharpen the end of it, so it can get right in there. And yeah, I like to take it back to the light paper, so take it back to that surface of the paper. So yeah, my drawing process involves a lot of subtracting things as well as adding. So a lot of erasing to create highlights, and then adding areas back in. This is the initial stages of the raven foot drawing as well. So it starts very loose. These are all drawn from images that I found as well. That I kind of combine them, and I choose the best elements from images. So I try not to do like a straight up like copy of something. I like to put my own spin on it. Starts with really loose sketch, and I just start building up the form and the tone with like kind of loose sketching. And I wanted to kind of keep this quite sketchy as well. So you can see all these like kind of lines where I was plotting it out as well, like the angles and everything, and where things sat. I kind of wanted to just leave those in. So I always start with these. I start with the darkest areas. So here I started on the dark feathers there, because that gives you something to work from, and it makes it easier to work out how light or dark the rest should be. Because sometimes if you just go straight in and start working on like a random patch, then you later go back to a dark area and you realise, oh, that wasn't dark enough initially. So kind of use it as a bit of a gauge to see how dark it should be, and that's quite good practice in drawing in general, I found. So if it's on a white background, I would start with the darkest areas first, and if it was on a black background, I would start with the lightest areas first. Just the most extreme parts of the image, I suppose, I would start with, and then kind of work on the other kind of greys and everything around it. So yeah, so from ravens appealing to my love of the macabre to something even more personal to me. So this is a project from lockdown 2021. So I'm from Harlow in Essex. That's my hometown, and we were known for producing metropolitan slipware in the 17th century. So there were potters. There's a street called Potter Street now, named after them, and they produced this beautiful slip-decorated pottery of all different types. There's plates and chargers, puzzle jugs, chamber pots. You name it, they made it basically. With this like lovely slip-decorated decoration, with these kind of quite abstract forms, letters. This is the puzzle jug, so you got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, etc. Yeah, there's kind of like quite abstract forms. They're quite playful with the designs. And these are photos from Harlow Museum actually as well. So it's a great little local museum. They've got a really good display on metropolitan slipware. So I would definitely recommend visiting Harlow, even if it's just to see the museum. They've got some great stuff in there. So it's an example of my kind of in-person research, visiting local museums all over really. Wherever I go, I like to try and make it to a museum because they're like hidden gems and they can have really great things in there. So this is my collection of metropolitan slipware so far from the Thames. When I first discovered that this pottery came from Harlow, like this blew my mind because this was like a direct connection to my hometown. So this is my kind of humble collection. That bit is my biggest piece there. So it's a huge bit of a plate or charger. I found it in two pieces, like months and months apart as well. And I realised that they stuck together. That was a pretty magical moment. That's happened a few times to me, and that's always really exciting. So this is the stages of a drawing that I produced during lockdown. This is a present for my partner Alice, who's sitting right here. Present for her sister Abby, who's also an artist and graphic designer. She also got a tattoo on her arm of a little piece of metropolitan slipware because we're both from Harlow, so we've both got that connection. Yeah, so this was based on a real jug, I think from the Museum of London. But I actually wanted to add my own text, basically. So I wanted to add the words Harlow Town in the original kind of font that they would have used, that kind of slip-trailed kind of decoration, that kind of text. So the original inscriptions would have been like kind of very Puritan phrases, like fear the Lord thy God, fast and pray, that kind of thing, little kind of mottos. Yeah, so they obviously wouldn't have said Harlow Town originally. So it's a tribute to the pottery industry in Harlow. Also mentioned metropolitan slipware has been found all over the world. It's been found in North America as well as the Thames. So I think it's called metropolitan slipware because it's found so much in London, so hence metropolitan. Yeah, so this was drawn in coloured pencil, one of my other favourite mediums. So this shows how I kind of started with a light pencil sketch. For this I used a grid as well, just to make sure the proportions are correct. Yeah, started kind of gradually building up the layers of colour. So I started basically really with the dark areas. Also just plotted out the yellow as well, the sort of yellowy tones of the text. Yeah, gradually built up the layers and kept this bit free because it's a nice big chunky area of highlight there. Kept those free, kept the paper showing through, and then yeah, gradually went back in and added all the little nitty-gritty details, the highlights and stuff. This is the finished drawing. So I'm more of a 2D guy, so I don't really, I'm not very good at making practical 3D objects. So I kind of wanted to do the next best thing and do a really nice drawing of one, basically. So this is the next best thing. So this is the original drawing in its new home. This is it belongs to Abby now. So this is in Palm Mill Studios in Harlow. So she's got this beautiful studio along with her partner Harry. They run a graphic design studio called Snooty Studios in Harlow. They're great people. And this, yeah, belongs to her now. So it's in a really beautiful setting in this old, I think it goes back to the 17th century, big kind of water mill. Really cool building. Yeah, obviously, Palm Mill Studios is a great place as well. It's full of artists. It's literally it's only inhabited by artists, basically, all different studios. I don't have a studio there myself because I live in London now, but it'd be great to maybe have one there one day. But it's a cool place. This is it on display, I think, earlier this year in the Gibbard Gallery in Harlow. So this is part of an exhibition called the Harlow Open. So it's an annual exhibition where artists from Harlow and the surrounding areas can submit their work and put it in this exhibition that's on for like a month or two. You get people from all over the town, the surrounding areas, and literally hundreds of people submitted work. So this is my little jug there, surrounded by other pieces. Yeah, so this is the Gibbard Gallery, named after Frederick Gibbard, the architect who designed the new town. Yeah, so it's a really good company. It was rubbing shoulders with artists like Henry Moore and Barbara Hepworth. They've got pieces in there because Harlow is known as the sculpture town. So we've got lots of public art, lots of famous artists. We've got a Rodin somewhere, I think, Barbara Hepworth, Henry Moore, Gerda Rubinstein, lots of artists. So it's quite a good art history in Harlow. So now, something different. So returning to that Roman oil lamp that I found earlier and spoke about, I feel like I wasn't done with it. It was one of my favourite pieces, favourite objects that I'd found. So I was really inspired to do another artwork. So I feel like I have certain things that I'd like to return to. So like I did with the hunt cup with the running animals, I kind of now I wanted to go back to the Roman oil lamp. So this is very recently I did this. So recently I also found a nice little fragment of a Roman shale bracelet on the right there. So this is an example, complete example here in the Museum of London before it closed to be moved to Smithfield. So shale is it's a soft mudstone, mostly from Kimmeridge down in Dorset. As jet was very expensive, so shale was kind of like the next best thing. It was like a cheaper version, and it could be polished up and made shiny to kind of emulate jet. So it's just a cheaper alternative, really. So I like to make my own reference materials and props, and I often use my family and friends as models. I've used my mum and dad and Alice before, as to stand in for drawings and things. So it's quite a common thing for me. So this is a complete example based on that Museum of London example that I sculpted. It's quite crude because I'm definitely no sculptor, but it's just for the purpose of a drawing, basically, to get the lighting kind of correct and everything. So I made this in Das air drying clay. It was nice and quite simple, although I made a meal out of it because I found it hard. But yeah, I got there in the end. It's a little bit wonky, but it does the job. So I painted it black and I coated it in PVA glue because I wanted to give it that kind of shine, so emulate the shiny, polished shale kind of feel. So I combined my own made reference materials with an amazing previously made replica of the lamp by my friend Mark, who's sitting over there, the brilliant Mark Sowden, who gave a talk around this time last year. You might have been to that. So this is me actually lighting the lamp for the very first time. So I looked up online how to properly do it, got all the materials, it's got proper olive oil, I bought some quite thick cotton string to make the wick, got some tweezers there to adjust the length of the wick. So I filled it up in the sort of the big central sort of rounded thing in the middle, and it goes into the holes. They put the wick in. And actually, it worked really well, actually. When we lit it for the first time, it was great. It burned really well. I wasn't sure how it was going to be. I'd never used an oil lamp before, but it was great. So the initial idea in my head was simply just a hand holding the lit lamp in a dark area, basically. Also with the hand wearing the shale bracelet on their wrist as well. Just a kind of like a two-in-one, showing the oil lamp and the shale bracelet, basically on a lady's wrist, like a Roman woman holding these Roman items. So this is a little screenshot from my phone's camera roll, so just give us an example of how many photos I take. And there's a little video there just showing how the flame flickered and everything, and how the lighting was really nice, and it showed the oil lamp was nice and shiny and captured the light really well. So I love really atmospheric and moody artwork, and I really wanted to kind of bring that into my sort of mudlarking artwork as well, because I hadn't really done that before. I'd done more kind of straight up reconstructions, but I wanted to make something a little bit more kind of moody. So I really love dramatic lighting and sort of playing with how the light interacts with textures and surfaces, and then trying to emulate that through drawing. So once again, I used a loved one. I used Alice, who's here, as a hand model. I've used her several times as a hand model. She has quite unique hands, good to draw. I always take many photos. And so when I'm taking my reference images, I keep an open mind. So I do have an initial picture in my head, but then sometimes little happy accidents happen. So when she was holding the lamp, she naturally kind of put her other hand in front of the flame, as if she was walking along and protecting the flame from going out. And I thought that was really cool, so I wanted to include that, just as little natural human moments. So I started with the lightest area first, as I mentioned earlier, because this was on a black background. So as with the Harlow jug, the coloured pencil, I used Faber-Castell Polychromos coloured pencils. They're really, really nice quality. I've got a pack of 60. Yeah, really good pencils. I recommend those. So Faber-Castell Polychromos. And also for this piece, I tried a brand new paper that I hadn't touched before. So it's called a Fabriano black paper. So it's reputed to be like the darkest paper you can buy apparently for drawing. And yeah, it worked really well. It's quite a smooth surface. It's very thick, so it takes a lot of punishment, a lot of erasing, a lot of pressing into it, which I like to do. I don't like too thin paper that kind of just breaks away. So that's really good paper. So it was a case of trying to kind of match the colours as best as I could with the pencils that I had. So I started with the flat areas of colour. So I started with the flame for this one because it's the brightest area. Worked on where it was burned there with the different colours, so they've got some pinks and blues and yellows. And then I started with the flat areas of the lamp. So I started with quite a flat orange, and I kind of I sort of layer it up with slightly different colours as well. So I started with a flat orange, then I went in with a slightly lighter yellowy orange over the top, like where it's closer to the flame, because it would have it casts slightly quite more vibrant light just in the area towards the flame. So I go in and I'm going to add highlights and more shadows to suggest form. So this is me going in with a white pencil just to add in the highlights to make it look shiny and see that it's shown that there's been olive oil kind of poured all over it. So I also use the subtractive technique as well with the eraser. So it does work with coloured pencil, not quite as well as with graphite pencil, but it's pretty good. So I go with an eraser and the electric eraser that I showed earlier, and I take areas away, but this time it goes back to the black paper rather than to the white paper. So this is good for actually creating areas of shadow rather than creating highlights. So this is another example of adding in flat areas of colour. So for this is the hand, so that's directly near the flame. So it's quite flat actually. So because it's so directly in the light, there aren't many details in view really. But there was a few dark areas between the fingers. So this is kind of me just going in with a black pencil, just going in those pinpoint details, adding in just those little areas of shadow there, kind of defining the darker areas. And this is kind of the stages of layering with the coloured pencil to get good coverage. So because with these drawings, I like to try and eliminate the tooth of the paper. So the tooth is like the texture of the paper basically. So you can kind of see it coming through here. Sometimes that's nice. Sometimes I like to keep that in certain areas. So it has its place. But I like to layer up the coloured pencil to try and make it as smooth as possible. So this is what I call the ugly stages of the drawing. So I feel like every drawing there's a really ugly stage that I feel like, why am I doing this? This looks absolutely terrible kind of thing. This is here when I was going in with the really horrible gaudy orange, and I wanted to create a nice flat base there, and then gradually kind of adding in kind of more pinky kind of flesh tones over the top, and then gradually adding in the details. That's where I kind of feel a bit of relief, it doesn't look completely horrible. It looks more like a hand now, basically. But I feel like those stages are necessary initially. Those kind of flat layers of colour, because it does show through. Because obviously human skin, it's not just straight up pink. It has so many different colours in it. It's got blues and sometimes even greens. But in this instance, it was quite orange because of the flame. The detail comes afterwards. So this here is my favourite stage. So this is where the base layers have all been laid, all the kind of ugly stages are out of the way and done. So now I can go in with the juicy details, go in with the white pencil to add those really nice highlights on the shale bracelet, add the dark areas with the black pencil. So this is always my favourite stage of a drawing. When all the kind of boring initial stages are over, you can really start making it pop and look nice and juicy, basically. This is the finished piece, so I'm really happy with how it turned out. I've got the original there. It will give you a better view of how it looks, kind of thing. So yes, I was happy that I was managed to bring these amazing Roman finds back to life through like atmospheric, moody drawing with some dramatic lighting. And I thought that using just only the hands like forces the viewer to kind of fill in the rest of the details, to imagine the woman who would have held this, like the Romano-British woman in Londinium in the Roman times, like almost 2,000 years ago, in a dark, drafty home on the northern edge of the empire, kind of lighting this imported lamp with imported olive oil, and she's wearing this brand new fancy bracelet that she's bought the day previously, and she's lit this lamp for the first time, and she's walking through, protecting the flame as she walks through. So it's just like a little snapshot of that little moment in history. So I hope to do more work in a kind of similar vein to this in future. So like more kind of like atmospheric depictions. I really like working on black paper as well, because it's just fun. It's a completely different experience to working on white and cream paper, etc. So yeah, lastly, this is a recent poster design that I'm sure you probably all saw when you walked in. So I was commissioned by Jason Sandy, who runs these exhibitions along with Monica and Marie. They do a great job, and I'm very, very honoured that they've asked me to do this and produce the poster. So Jason said he wanted something really bold and clear and readable from a distance. So I kind of went back to using my stippling technique. It's my go-to thing, and I wanted to show the most kind of like recognisable mudlarking objects really. So you've got a Bartman face, you've got pipes, you've got a key, you've got a dice, you've got beads, and I've obviously put a Roman oil lamp in there as well. So they're not based on anyone's specific finds per se, but they're kind of like the general gist of the kind of things you would find. Got an echinoid there, a fossilised sea urchin, Roman game encounter, Jew's harp, a tooth, Roman hairpins as well.
It does look like my Roman oil lamp.
It's similar, yeah. Yours has a handle, I think, yeah. Yeah, so I don't want to draw directly, but yeah, I know that lamps are found, obviously, so I wanted to include it. Yeah, so I'm quite happy with how it turned out. It printed out really nicely. You probably saw it as you came in. Yeah, it's quite exciting to have my work printed on a big scale. Monica got it printed for me, so thanks for that. Yeah, so this kind of sort of brings me to the end of the talk. So thank you so much for spending your time with me. Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. And I know that we're not wasting a good tide because the low tide is tonight. So, because whenever I'm planning anything I'm doing in life, I have to check the tide booklet because I have to make sure there's no exceptional tides. But I think it's tonight around 7ish, 0.86 I think it is off the top of my head. Yeah, so thank you for coming. So is my Instagram handles. So I've got 2 Instagram accounts. I've got my Mudlarking one, so I've got charlie.collect, and my other illustration work, Charlie Dixon Illustration. That's where I post most of my other stuff. But most of this kind of stuff you'll see on my Mudlarking one, and got my website there as well. There's a QR code as well if you find it easier to just go in via that. Yeah, so please take the postcard with you if you want. They're all free to take. Got all my details on there as well. Yeah, I'd like to say, yeah, so the commissions are welcome as well, so I'm now freelance, so if anyone has any projects in mind and you want to use me for them, please let me know. Yeah, so before you go, has anyone got any questions? And then after questions, you can come and have a look at the finds if you want. So, yeah, go for it.
Okay, I love your Bobertine animals, wild animals, and I was really interested when you said about the fact that they might have been slightly inspired by the pinprick tattoo.
Oh yes, yeah.
Have you got a Bobertine?
No, but it is a plan to get one maybe. Yeah, I would like to maybe get like some animals running around my arm or something. Maybe, yeah. I haven't actually got a single tattoo yet, but that could be maybe my first one. Yeah, so there's some great artists out there that I'm inspired by. So yeah. Any more questions?
Charlie, at the beginning you showed the lovely project you did when you were younger.
Yeah.
Very young, obviously, but when you were younger. And I think so many people, I do botanical art, not as a profession, but as a professional. And so many people do sketchbooks of their botanical work. And that, the way you did that, for me, that would make a wonderful book. I know lots of people, all the books that all the Mudlarks have written, but just the way you did, you know, the stairs coming down and little stories, and I just think that would make a wonderful idea to do a sketchbook.
Okay, well, thanks for the idea.
And you know, if you could get someone interested, and because that sort of thing is so popular nowadays. I mean, there's lots of Mudlark books which are wonderful, but that's quite a different take on it, because it's to do with your artwork as much as anything.
Yeah, good idea. Thank you for that. Yeah, I'll definitely consider it. Yeah, cool. Any more questions?
What was the black paper you said you used?
So it's made by a company called Fabriano, and it's called black paper. Just to emphasise how black it is, I suppose. And it's very it's very nice paper. You'll see it over there with the drawing. Any more questions? Sorry.
Is there a medium that you haven't tried yet that you would like to try on your radar?
I haven't done much painting really. Like I've done a bit in the past. So you saw a bit of watercolour there, but I've never tried oil paints really. I literally have never oil painted in my life. So I've done a lot of acrylic painting, but maybe oil painting. Maybe try my hand at sculpting at some point. I know it's not really my thing, but maybe I could try it. It might help with my drawings as well. So any more questions?
Do you have a find on your bucket list that you really want to discover and recreate in your life?
I don't know really. I've been very lucky to find a lot of my bucket list finds, so the pilgrim badge and the oil lamp, but I don't know really, it's really hard to say. Probably something Roman maybe, Roman or medieval, I can't think of a specific thing, but just more really nice Roman pottery maybe, because that's always fun to research and draw, I think. Yeah, I'm sure there is an answer somewhere in my head, but I can't think of it right now, sorry. There's just so many beautiful things out there, so. Cool, any more questions?
I just want to say thank you for such a really interesting talk, and for being so generous actually with your, the way that you go about your work and your research, which seems really embedded in what you do. I presume there's a sort of community of Mudlarkers, which you all help each other, which is really nice. And so I was thinking, so you said earlier on, this is a king's head from so-and-so, and I was thinking, how do you know that? So that was
right.
one of the things, which is, I just, I always like to kind of know how you know.
Oh right, so there's a great
so that
community.
Was one thing,
that particular, the king's head from the medieval jug, that was ID'd via Mark, who's over there. So strangely, Mark at the back, wave, because whatever. Probably know who he is already. But Mark strangely had a T-shirt with, or knew of a T-shirt by another potter who's based in Hoxton called Troy Town, Aaron Angel, I think his name is. He'd actually done a T-shirt design with a photo of that jug on it, and Mark recognised that. Went from there, and there's an example in the Museum of London. So that's how we ID'd it. So there's sometimes the answers come from quite strange places. I've kind of built a bit of a bank up now of people that I know and experts in various fields from all over. So I've got people like, there's a person in Switzerland that's good at leather finds, there's someone there's a lot of people in the Netherlands that are really useful, and people in America, and it's people all over. So it's just kind of word of mouth, getting to know people and getting to know the best sources to look at, to ID things. So the Portable Antiquities scheme is a great place. That's where we record all of our finds that are over 300 years old and historically significant. That gets put on the database, and there's like literally over 1 million things on there. So you can literally type things in. And that's a great resource. I use that a lot.
And then the other, sorry, I just want to ask the second part of mine, which was, and this might be for you and the other Mudlarkers here, how often do you have to go out? What's the ratio of finding things to not finding things?
I like to go out as much as possible, so I like to try and go at least once a week if I can, sort of tide permitting sort of thing. So I like to go very early in the morning, very late at night, sometimes in the middle of the day if it's like maybe at the weekend. So I go out as much as possible. I like to, and you won't always find something like earth-shatteringly amazing, but you'll always find little bits of history, little personal items. you just look at the general discarded rubbish of history, really, and it's all fascinating. Like, you always come away with something interesting, but yeah, it won't be like an oil lamp every time kind of thing, but yeah, it's great.
Thanks so much.
London's clearly a rich source, but I wondered what other cities you know of where mudlarking is also, I presume there needs to be a tidal river and a settlement or history there as well.
I think London is quite unique in its sheer history and the fact that it's tidal, but there are other incredible places, like particularly in the Netherlands. There's a lot of amazing Dutch mudlarks, a guy called Danny, and there's a guy called Hanky, I think. There's quite a few of them. And yeah, they find incredible stuff. I don't think they do it in rivers, do they? They dig, don't they?
I think they dig when they've emptied out canals and tipped all the spoil on farmland,
Right.
and then they go and dig in the spoil heaps.
Yeah, but I don't know of any other places like London, really. Do you know of any? Like,
No.
no, not really. London is the place to be.
We have the luck of the mud as well.
Yes.
Our mud is particularly good at preserving forests, so that
Definitely.
With the illustration with the tyre and the piece of timber, you talked about erosion. How much do mudlarkers feel they are in a sort of precious moment, and actually that moment will pass and erosion will have got us back to the bare bones of the river without the detritus lying on it?
Right, well, yeah, particularly at the moment, there is a particular area that is getting very eroded and may get filled in eventually, which will be heartbreaking, but we're all trying to make the most of it while it's there, kind of thing. But yes, you do see the erosion happening. Like, I can go back to a spot that I was in like a week ago, and it looks completely different. Like, it changes very rapidly because of the Thames clippers. That's probably the main thing, like the boats going up and down the wash. So it changes very rapidly. So the erosion is a good thing as well for us. It's like a double-edged sword. So obviously the erosion produces lots of finds that are buried. So it's good for us, kind of bad for the foreshore environment, really. So.
Charlie has stood here and entertained us royally for the last hour. Can I ask everyone to join me and give him a big round of applause?